Welcome to the Benzano Podcast, where we're calling a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. Lock the players out. Lock them out. Put some real pressure on them. Send them an email. Hey, if our proposal doesn't get finished by this date, from every day there on after, the offer will get considerably worse.
That's not frustration. That's exasperation. And when you hear someone compare your negotiation tactics to trying to buy a $4,500 motorcycle for $2,000, you've got a problem. The WNBA Players Association just submitted their latest counterproposal in the CBA negotiations. They dropped from asking for 27% of gross revenue down to 26%, and the league's response? Silence. Because that's not negotiating. That's insulting.
Doesn't make it any less foolish. Folks, I used to ride motorcycles back in the day. Let's say I bought it off Craigslist. Pretty sure I did. Let's say it was a Ninja ZX6R. Got it for $4,500 used on Craigslist. Nice. Great bike. Lovely bike. Fast bike. Let's say I wanted the bike for $2,000. Do you think the gentleman that was selling that bike would take me seriously as a buyer?
Here's what actually happened. On February 17th, the Players Association asked for 27.5% of total team and league revenue. The league came back on February 20th with their offer, 15%, with a $5.65 million salary cap in 2026. So the players countered on March 7th. Their new ask? 26%, with a $9.45 million salary cap. They moved 1.5 percentage points. The league didn't budge at all. And now we're 8 days from the March 10th deadline when the season becomes at risk.
Along. Hey, I'll give you $3,500 for it. No, I'm really asking for $4,500, $35 solid, but we're still a little bit too far away. $4,000? You take $4,000 for it? Now what that person will say? Oh, now he's serious about buying this bike. All right, $4,000, we're about $500 off. Hey, $4,250, take it, it's yours. You know what? $4,100, it's the best I got right now. Cash, here you go. You know what? $4,100 is cool.
Let's put those numbers in perspective. The players won a salary cap of $9.45 million per team in year one. But look at the actual economics. The Washington Mystics have a max seating capacity of 4,200. The Atlanta Dream, 3,500. 22 home games per season. You're asking for nearly $10 million in player salaries when some teams can't even physically generate that kind of revenue from ticket sales alone. The math doesn't work, and the league knows it.
Because these concessions, this counterproposal, it's a waste of time at this point. The owners have to be looking at this like a waste of time at this point. Once the players get to around 20% in their counterproposal, then maybe the owners will start to move into that 17% range. But they need to come down to 20%. They're not going to come down to 26 and then the owners go to 15 and then 25 and the owners go to 15 and a half.
Now here's what makes this particularly frustrating for anyone watching these negotiations. The players opted out of the current CBA in October 2024. They didn't just opt out quietly. They made a hype video, treated it like a championship announcement. That was 16 months ago. 16 months of negotiations. The first deadline came and went last October. Then a 30-day extension. Then a 40-day extension. Then a status quo period. And in all that time, the players have moved from 30% to 27 to 26. That's not progress. That's stalling.
Maybe if they would have moved off of that 30% down to 26% back in November, back in October, maybe then we'd be making some progress. But to do it in the 11th hour, we're just wasting time here. WNBPA asks in this offer 26% gross revenue share over the life of the deal and $9.45 million salary cap in 2026. The previous WNBA offer 15%.
But there's a deeper issue here that nobody's talking about. Revenue sharing itself is new for the WNBA. The current CBA doesn't include it at all. So the league offering 15% of gross revenue represents a massive shift in how players get compensated. They're not just getting salary increases, they're getting a percentage of league growth for the first time ever. If revenue goes up, they benefit directly. That's an $80,000 bonus on top of salary, if projections hold. The players are treating this like it's standard when it's actually revolutionary for this league.
Like, be honest with me. I know the number is less, but what did I say? Just because your offer goes from something foolish to something still foolish doesn't negate the fact that this offer is foolish in the first place. WNBA players make small concessions to league in CBA offer, an article by Annie Costable. Let's just start with the elephant in the room. It's funny how when the players make small concessions, they're reporting it as small concessions, but when the owners do it, we don't really use the same.
And here's where the timing becomes critical. The WNBA turned a profit for the first time in 2024, 1 year after 27 years of losses subsidized by the NBA. The league made money because Caitlin Clark drove unprecedented viewership and attendance. Average attendance jumped 22%. Viewership for games featuring Clark averaged 1.8 million viewers. The playoff game between Indiana and Connecticut drew 2.5 million. Those are real numbers, but they're also one season of data. 1 year doesn't establish a trend. It establishes a possibility.
Also to the WNBA Friday evening that included slight changes to the share of revenue players are seeking and team-provided housing. In their latest proposal shared with the league on February 17th, the union asked for a 27.5% share of total team and league revenue over the course of the deal. Ridiculous! Their latest asked for a 26% share over the life of the deal. Still ridiculous. I don't know why the players don't see that. Their proposed salary cap in year one is still roughly $9.45 million. This proposal is in response to the league's sent on February 20th, which did not budge.
Think about what the players are actually asking for. They want the league to commit to 26% of gross revenue based on one profitable season. Gross revenue, not net. That means before the league pays for production costs, travel, facilities, marketing, everything. The NBA gives players 50% of basketball-related income, but that's net revenue after expenses, and it's a league that's been profitable for decades with established television deals worth billions. The WNBA's new media rights deal with Disney, Amazon, and NBC is worth $2.2 billion over 11 years. That's $200 million per year. Solid growth, but it's not NBA money. Not even close.
It's going to be much more valuable than what they are thinking it's going to be. And they're actually going to be able to take part in revenue share from now on. They never got that before. So maybe they're not actually even factoring that in. Oh, well, that's probably an extra $80,000 bonus. I'm assuming next year is better than this year. That's what their owners are hoping for. Next year is better than this year. You hope to grow. You don't hope to shrink. All right, well, then that's another $80,000. Oh, okay, fair enough. Both sides have been negotiating for nearly 16 months after the Players Association opted out of the current CBA in October 24th, and they opted out in a video, like a high.
Now watch what happens when you compare the two offers side by side. The league's 15% of gross revenue with a $5.65 million cap. The players' 26% with a $9.45 million cap. That's nearly a 70% difference in the salary cap. 70%. In what world does a business that just turned profitable for the first time in its history immediately increase labor costs by 70%? You know what happens to businesses that do that? They stop being profitable, and then everyone loses.
We got into the weeds of these negotiations. They've been acting like children. The first CBA deadline came and went last October before both sides agreed to extensions. The first was a 30-day extension, followed by a 40-day extension. Negotiations entered a period of status quo. I was watching Dave Sampson, and I think he put it right. The owners need to say, this is my offer. This is my final offer. Every day after today that you don't accept this, the offer will get worse and worse and worse and worse. Really lay down the law. I know you put the deadline date, but that's just the deadline date for the season, not the deadline date.
Here's the part that should worry everyone. The Players Association is negotiating like they have leverage, but do they? The league set a March 10th deadline. If there's no deal, the season gets delayed. That puts pressure on both sides, right? Except the owners have been losing money on this league for 27 years. They're not afraid of a delayed season. They've already demonstrated they'll absorb losses. The players, on the other hand, have careers that last maybe 10 years, if they're lucky. Every missed game is money they never get back. Every delayed season is time they can't recover. So who actually has more to lose here? And that brings us to the real issue: leadership. The Players Association has been acting like this is a fight they can win through public pressure and social media campaigns. But CBA negotiations aren't won on Twitter. They're won at the negotiating table with realistic proposals backed by economic data. When you start at 30% and slowly work your way down to 26% over 16 months, you're not negotiating. You're posturing. And the league isn't impressed. Look at how other leagues handle this. When the NBA players and owners negotiate, both sides bring economists, lawyers, financial analysts. They present revenue projections, cost analyses, market comparisons. It's professional. It's data-driven. The WNBA players made a hype video and asked for 30%. That's not a negotiation strategy. That's a publicity stunt. And now they're paying for it with a league that won't take their counterproposals seriously. The motorcycle analogy isn't just clever, it's accurate. When someone lists a bike for $4,500 and you offer $2,000, you're not a serious buyer. You're wasting everyone's time. The seller blocks your number and waits for someone real. That's exactly where these negotiations are. The players offered $2,000 when the bike costs $4,500. Then they came back with $2,200. Still not serious. The league is waiting for them to show up with $3,500 or $4,000. Something that indicates they understand how this actually works. And here's what should terrify the players. Every day that passes without a deal, the league's position gets stronger, because the leverage shifts. Right now, we're 8 days from the deadline. The players are thinking the league will panic and make concessions to save the season. But what if the league doesn't panic? What if they look at one profitable year and decide they can afford to wait? What if they come back and say, okay, you didn't take 15%. Now the offer is 14%. Wait another week? 13%. That's how you create actual pressure. That's how you force serious negotiations. Dave Sampson suggested exactly that approach. Tell the players this is the final offer. Every day after the deadline that you don't accept, the offer gets worse. Not better, worse. March 11th, 14%. March 20th, 12%. April 1st, 10%. Suddenly the players have to make a real decision. Do we take the deal on the table, or do we gamble that the league is bluffing? Except the league has been subsidizing losses for 27 years. They're not bluffing. They can afford to play hardball. The players can't. Now let's talk about what happens if the season gets delayed. The WNBA just had its best year ever. Caitlin Clark brought mainstream attention. Casual fans started watching. Broadcast partners paid $2.2 billion for media rights. Momentum was building. And then what? A lockout. Players and owners fighting over money while fans lose interest. You know what kills momentum faster than anything? Labor disputes. Ask baseball how the 1994 strike worked out. They lost millions of fans who never came back. The WNBA can't afford that. Not after one good year. Not when they're still building the foundation. The players seem to think they're negotiating from strength because of 2024's success. But they're missing the bigger picture. That success created opportunity, not leverage. The opportunity is this: take the league's offer of 15% revenue sharing, prove the growth is sustainable over the next 3 years, then renegotiate from actual strength. Come back in 2027 with 3 years of profitable growth and say, look at what we built. Now we want 20%. That's a winning strategy. Demanding 26% after one good year, that's how you end up with nothing. And let's be honest about who this hurts most. The older players trying to cash in before retirement. They're the ones pushing for maximum dollars right now because they don't have time to wait for the next CBA. But the young players, the ones who just got drafted, the ones who'll be in the league for the next decade, they're getting screwed by this strategy. Because if the season gets delayed or canceled, they lose development time. They lose exposure. They lose the chance to build their brands while the league has momentum. All because the veterans wanted to swing for the fences instead of taking the smart deal. Look at the reaction from fans. People are frustrated. They're calling out the players for being unrealistic. They're pointing out that the WNBA doesn't even own its own league. It's still subsidized by the NBA. They're noting that some arenas hold fewer than 4,000 people. The economics don't support $9.45 million salary caps. Not yet. Maybe in 5 years, if growth continues. But not now. Not after one profitable season. The Players Association needs new leadership that understands this. Leadership that can read the room and make strategic decisions instead of emotional ones. Here's the bottom line. The WNBA made the players an offer that includes revenue sharing for the first time in league history, 15% of gross revenue, a $5.65 million salary cap in year 1, guaranteed growth if the league continues its upward trajectory. That's not an insult. That's a foundation. Take the deal, prove the success is real, build the league's value, then come back in 3 years and negotiate from actual strength with actual data. That's how you win long-term. But if the players keep pushing for 26%, if they keep treating this like a fight they can win through stubbornness, they're going to lose everything. The season will get delayed, fans will lose interest, momentum will die, and in 3 years, when they're back at the table, they'll have less leverage than they do right now, because the league will remember who was willing to kill the golden goose before it even finished laying eggs. So what happens next? We're 8 days from the deadline. The players need to decide if they're serious about building this league or if they're more interested in winning a negotiation, because those aren't the same thing. Winning the negotiation means getting your number. Building the league means taking the smart deal and proving you deserve more later. Which one matters more? Let me know in the comments. And if you think the players should take the 15% and build from there, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more honest analysis of where this league is actually headed, because this CBA negotiation is about to determine whether the WNBA capitalizes on its momentum or wastes it fighting over percentages that don't match reality.